You're such an asshole!
Hi all, the old captain here. We have a request, interesting request. Hi Aaron. Wanted to get your opinion on something I've been thinking about recently. I wanted to know if you thought that there was any chance or indication currently that ideologies such as communism or fascism will rise again, specifically if they may become a dominant political force in countries of significance that exist today, and if so, where? Lastly, neither ideology gaining a foothold would be good for anyone who lives under those regimes, but it just seems like the world is becoming more polarized, and so people are gravitating towards more extreme ideologies. I'm not asking for an exhaustive analysis, just more of an opinion best. Eric, all right, well, thank you, Eric. Well, here's the problem. This is like economics. When they say, well, this economic theory and this economic model, we believe in the Keynesian model, we believe in the Austrian, it's like, fuck, there's no... Are you going to take people's money or not? That's basically all of economics. Like, do you want to steal people's money or not? Through the government. Yes or no? Don't call it social democracy. Don't call it democracy. Don't call it just capital. No. You going to steal it or not? And if it's legal, well, then you call it socialism or communism, all right? If you're not going to steal, you're going to let people keep their money, it's capitalism. But you're going to steal it, but it's going to be illegal, but you're going to do it through corruption, and it's called kleptocracy. And if you're going to use a religion to warrant taking away, well, then it's called a theocracy. Don't get confused with all these isms. I personally do not discriminate or differentiate between fascism and communism because they're both dictatorships. And the government takes your money. About the only slight difference, you can't even call it a difference, it's just a different way the government takes your money, is under communism, the government owns everything. There's no private property. Under fascism, there is the guise or the false pretenses that you actually own your property, because then the government comes in and says, well, we're going to tell you what to do, and by the way, we're going to tax you X%. But the only thing, this is how I simplify it and boil it down, is what percent of GDP does the government spend? That's it. That's as simple, the isms or the ists, and I don't care what the excuses are for moving that needle as far to 100% as possible. I don't care what the excuses are. Are you free or not? Right? And how much and how free are you? I understand you have to have governments and roads and schools or defense and all that other. That's about 10%, right? But then you go to Sweden or Finland where it's 55 or 60%. Well, that's pretty rank socialist. And you go 100% where it's like a North Korea or a Soviet Union or not Leninist. Who was the guy? Pol Pot. What was he? Laos, Cambodia, whatever. You go full on communism. Then you're at 100%. The slight difference that fascism is what we have today in terms of economic policy. We'll talk about social policy later. Is where the government says, oh, yeah, well, you own your property. You own that, but you got to pay property taxes. Oh, you own that corporation, but you got to pay a 40% corporate tax rate. The government basically says, look, fascism is slightly more intelligent than communism in terms of economics in one regard, is at least the fascists realize, wow, the government really sucks at running everything. And you see what those communist people did? Holy crap. 100 million starved and killed without a bullet fired? Jesus. Hey, let's mobilize and fool the people into thinking they own their own property. But we will, like the mafia, be a 10, 20, 40, in the case of Sweden and Finland and all these other wonderful, we'll be a 60% owner and take our cut. And then that way people are fooled. It's the hugest psychological trick ever, is where people are fooled into thinking they own it, and then they bust their asses off. I mean, look, let me give you a perfect example of fascism, a functional fascism. Successful, you might even add. Silicon Valley. They have successfully duped that culture, that group of people, those young people, maybe not so young, to bust their asses off 60 to 80 hours a week, to suffer commutes, to pay egregious rents that are in part driven by taxes. Where effectively, if you were to suss it out and calculate, okay, how many of these dollars that they work end up going to the government anyway, I would not be surprised if it's just shy of 70. I'd have to peg it around, because there's your stated taxes where half is gone. state, federal, and local. But then you got your sales tax, this tax, the property tax. Rents go up because of government rate. I bet you when you did a full accounting and inventory of it, those sheep over there are 2/3 a slave for the government. But we got to work. Oh, I made my 6 figures. I'm a successful Silicon Valleyer. Oh my God, you're slaves. You're slaves. But at least with that lie, fascism gets people to produce, right? And then there's something to tax through this partial ownership of your own labor. And then the government can go do whatever it wants. Hey, illegal aliens, here's some money. Hello, vote for us, the Democrats. So from an economic perspective, whether the government is the stated owner of the property or it's a behind-the-scenes mafioso silent partner where you got to pay protection money, I don't differentiate in terms of economic policy. All right, I look at it that government owns the means of production if they're a 60% owner. They may not have the deed or own the land according to the county, but you don't own your property. You don't own that company. The government is the majority shareholder in it. So that's that slight tweak, but it's an important tweak because at least you get economic production. At least, look at North Korea where it's stated communism own everything. There's no production. Look at the United States where roughly about 40% of your money is just given to the government. Oh my God, you guys can't work enough. Silicon Valley, your tax is 65. You guys can't work enough even then. So that's the slight difference between it. But again, it is the state owning the production. And in fascism, it dictates what you produce. But now a lot of that was also then determined because we immediately point to Hitler and 30s Germany, but he was dictating a certain amount of production would occur because he was rearming. So that kind of throws, if you want to study fascism economics, it throws it off a little bit because read my article, Were the Nazis Socialists? And then I would recommend, if you wanted a more detailed insight, look at how the government outsourced socialism to the private sector, both parts 1 and 2. 1 is more economic, 2 is social. Then, so that addresses your economic policy and the differences between the two. Then there's social policy. And here there is no difference. And this is epitomized perfectly, not only through the history of communism, but take a look at Antifa. Antifa is anti-fascist, but they'll kill you or beat you up if you disagree with them. Well, that's fascist. And it's not even, I think the word fascist is pointless at this time. That's dictatorial. We don't like what you said, we're going to deplatform you. We don't like what you did, so we're going to dox you or hunt down your family. If you look at what the communists did in practice, it's nice in theory, and you have all these protections and blah, blah, blah. If you look at communism, when it was implemented, they became dictators. The Stalinists, if it wasn't bad enough under Lenin, then you get Stalin. Then they loosen up. Then you get Khrushchev, and what was the other guy after that? Brezhnev, Andropov. They went through like a spate of them in 6 months. And then it finally took Gorby to kind of loosen up a little bit, and you're not allowed to leave. You go into the gulag if you speak ill, if you wear glasses and you're under Pol Pot, you get killed. Mao Zedong, a great leap forward. By the way, let's kill a bunch of people who disagree. North Korea, my God, Cuba. Che Guevara killed, 50,000 people just because they disagreed? I don't care what you call yourself. You're a dictatorial fuck. You're a tyrant. And whether that's Hitler killing Jews, Mussolini oppressing, or whatever he did, I'm not terribly familiar with Italian history under World War II, except that they sucked fighting. Or the communists, in whatever variable way where they're just killing people they disagree, you really don't have the freedom, these social freedoms that you want. They're the same thing. Again, the only slight difference is its economic policy, where fascists play the funny, we'll let you own 30%, but you gotta be our bitch, otherwise you gotta pay us protection money. That's about the only difference that I really see. There's also, you could argue, the nationalism aspect where communists hate the country, and the reason communists hate the country is because they want to villainize the current system so they can criminalize it, which then gives them excuse or a logic to take money from that system and reorganize the system for the betterment of the communists. Fascism simply used nationalism. Let's go kick these people out. So there's like an element of national pride, which I'm not necessarily against. You should be proud of your nation if it does great things. You shouldn't be proud of your nation if you're fucking Chad or Sudan or South Africa or communist China. I mean, although communist China has liberalized a little bit, so it depends on your country. But if your nationalism is let's kill the Jews and that's the biggest thing you got, I think you probably shouldn't be proud of that. But aside from that nationalism, it doesn't matter. It's the excuse tyrants use to take over and enslave the rest of the population so they don't have to work. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is these people don't want to work. So Hillary Clinton will be a communist and say, oh, it's those rat bastard white people, or the Democrats, and it's those rat bastard people with peni. It's those rat bastard capitalists, we need to get them. You get someone who's equally dictatorial. Oh, it's those rat bastard foreigners. It's those rat bastard, I'm trying to think, what would a nationalist go? Oh, it's that ethnic group, as Hitler did. And we got to get rid of that. That then gives, yes, we will vote for you. And once you vote for them, well, guess what? Name me one communist country where you are allowed to vote for another party. You can't. Because the communists would not allow you to vote for another party. That's forbidden. And so they're fascist, they're dictatorial. The classic quotes, when the communists show up to fight the fascists, you don't intervene. You just watch the show. Let them knock each other out. As they're arguing over which form of dictatorship they want to have. Look, can we supply weapons to both you guys? Here, give us your gold. Here's some weapons. There, you got a gold? Here, give us all your silver. Okay, give us all your hot chicks and get some weapons. Okay, kill yourselves. So your question, I just want to lay that up. Your question was, I want to know if you thought there was any chance or indication currently that ideologies such as communism or fascism will rise again. I think certainly sects and factions within society will. I think communism, and in many regards, this is already here. Elements of both, but I think they're the same beast, two sides of the same coin. You look at government spending as a percent of GDP, that's been going up. You look at the social freedoms that are being curtailed, and just the Orwellian language, the good censor. You look at some of these nonprofits. I was listening to Cynical Libertarian Society, and harsh as he is, he was reading somebody's title from some bureau that was set up. I mean, you can't make it up. I think socialism is much more of a threat, much more realistic, and entrenched in the United States, because the government itself is socialist by its own nature, I would say. But they have academia, they have the media, and they have successfully given, I'd say, 3 generations now, certainly the millennials. I'm kind of curious if Gen Z is going to wake up and kick the habit with college. That's how they indoctrinate you. Generation X is kind of that way. The baby boomers were kind of that way. But they have successfully installed a religion of socialism in the American people. And so that is, quote, correct. Like, I mean, may I point out something? Look at how this past midterm election, they're perfectly all right with, like, we got to elect more women. That is sexist. That is sexist. You don't, what is it? We got to elect more men. That would be sexist too. Why is it because they have a hoo-ha that they get elected? That is the epitome of sexism. But it's okay because it's their sexism. It's their excuse to take your money and get men to work more. The class warfare, those is probably the most common one. The Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, the 1%. And how not one of these sheep can tell you what amount of tax the rich are. The rich don't pay their fair share. Okay, what's their fair share? What are they paying now? What would you like them to pay? I mean, they're truly brainwashed sheep. And they got this new religion, and it's called other people's money. Well, that's communism, but fascism's the same thing. So, I see communism more of a threat because at least on the face of it, the sheep are going to argue and have been trained to argue against Republicans are fascists, white people are fascists, people with P&I are fascists. It means it no longer has any meaning. If you disagree with the left, you're a fascist. You're a racist, you're a sexist. All those words no longer have meaning. So it's almost pointless once the words no longer have meaning when these two people, they're idiots, start fighting amongst each other. But because fascism is bad and socialism is good, according to the new religion and the brainwashing and the institutions of the powers that be in today's society, more people, I think, communism under the guise of socialism or the Democrat Party. I mean, the Democrat Party, that's a joke. It's not it's a social. Just call yourselves the Socialist Party. Call yourselves what you are. The fact Teeth and Eyes, Ocasio-Cortez got elected. Oh my God, she's a socialist. It's like what, Pelosi and Schumer and all those guys weren't. Where have you been? What does it matter what they call themselves when they want more taxes? What does it matter? So I think the Communist Party, the Socialist Party, has the official ordainment and approval of various institutions within the United States and the West. Your education system, your media. I would even say big tech, and this, they have successfully exported this religion where you have a presumably for-profit company and they all vote for more taxes. Again, I look at Silicon Valley in amazement how these people self-enslave themselves. I mean, these are people with super high IQs, but they're dope as sheeps. So the communists and the socialists have been very successful in moving that ball to the left, both economically and politically. And fascism, I just don't think it's such a hostile, because these people, what gives a lot of the communists and the leftists in the world value is not what they do for a living or if they have family, because none of them are capable of jobs. Well, some of them are, but very few are. They're not going to have family. It is what they're against. Well, they're against racism. They're against polluting the environment. They're against sexism. They're against this. They're against that. So they need a boogeyman or a bad guy. And, the fascists. Here, they were going to get the fascists. Well, who are the fascists? Well, that white guy who voted for lower taxes. Oh, my God, let's get him because he wanted lower taxes. So in that environment, I don't think, quote, real your fake fascist, who is just Bob, who wants a tax rate of under 10% and is heterosexual and maybe goes to church, that fascist is going to have a hard enough time growing up in today's environment. But a real fascist, the white nationalists or the white supremacists, there is a difference. Those guys, they're not going to. And then you've seen it. They've been deplatformed. Heck, Alex Jones gets deplatformed. A milky toast guy like that on the fascism scale. And then I think Stormfront lost their host and stuff like that. Those guys will never get a photo. And they certainly do not control academia, media, and stuff like that. So I would worry more about the because communism is easier to sell. It's easier to sell. Free shit. Hey, you're oppressed. Get those guys money. They oppressed you unconsciously. It's privilege. You didn't know. Get their money. We'll get you their money. You vote us in. All right. Well, free everything. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, don't worry about how the underbowels of the Titanic work. Don't worry. That's for those people to do. Let's sit up top here and drink espressos or whatever the hell they drink before. So, yes, communism, socialism is much more of a threat than I would say fascism, but I would argue they're both dictatorships that enslave their people in the end. It's just what excuse you use to get there. All right, that's it. Questions, answers, assholeconsulting.com. Share if you thought this was brilliant political and economic genius, which it was. And if you want to help out, there's links below to Amazon affiliate program and Patreon and stuff like that. We'll see you all later. Toodles.